because moving on to our next topic, we transition from Superman to Batman, and this news is not surprising. Getting some fans riled up, but it's not surprising to me. It's more of just the first time of maybe people should stay off social media. And that is that Ben Affleck has come out and blatantly stated he has no desire whatsoever to come back to the world of DC in either acting or directing. Now, this is surprising some fans. They're just like, but James Gunn. To be fair, James Gunn did put himself in this situation by tweeting that he had met with Ben Affleck and it went well and whatnot. But on the flip side, to anybody blaming James Gunn or the current administration, y'all don't want to look in the mirror and face the facts. You're part of the problem. It wasn't James Gunn or Peter Safran or whoever else. Ben Affleck had an awful time as Batman. Not Batman versus Superman or even anything Zack Snyder related. It was all Justice League reshoots with Joss Whedon and a little movie that y'all didn't feel like supporting called Live by Night. We don't talk about it nearly as much now, but the effects of Live by Night still stick with Ben Affleck and keep him away from the superhero genre. So what do I mean by that? Live by Night was a movie that he wrote and directed like a gangster movie. By all accounts, not one of his better movies, but the entire press tour, the entire time he was trying to promote this movie that he poured blood, sweat, and tears into an original movie, all people wanted to ask about was, how's your Batman movie coming along? What's Justice League look like? What's the future look like with Zack Snyder's Justice League? What's your role going to be as Batman? And he's just like, guys, I made this movie. I'm really, really proud of it. Can we talk about that movie instead?
Yeah.
And while he doesn't go into specifics, he said that working on Joss Whedon's Justice League, like the reshoots, was just hell, which someone please make a documentary about the production and the reshoots for that. I think that would be more interesting than the movie itself. So it was all stuff in the past, but at the same time, I get why he wouldn't want to work with James Gunn. He's used to the old way, but also people seem to think he's got some vendetta against James Gunn. I don't think that's the case at all. He spoke very positively of James Gunn. Now that could be just Hollywood. I'm being nice and being cordial here, but Ben Affleck is a singular-minded director. He just wants to tell good individual stories, and James Gunn is trying to map out a big, extensive universe. I don't think Ben Affleck has any interest in being a cog in a machine, so to speak, of, yes, James Gunn has said that people are going to have creative freedom for these DC movies, but I'm sure there's still pieces that will need to be in the movie, like they'll have some limitations, whereas Ben Affleck, he's got Air coming out, which honestly is one of my most anticipated movies of the year. That looks outstanding. Ben Affleck makes great movies. He doesn't need to be a part of someone else's system. Like Argo, I think, is one of his best movies of all time. The Town is fantastic. Ben Affleck is a great director that I don't think wants to be saddled with creative limitations, so to speak. So I'm not surprised by this. He's made it abundantly clear time and time and time again that he has no interest in delving back into the superhero genre, which sucks, but at the same time, I feel like he got bullied out of it, so I've always kind of felt bad for him. But this is not surprising. It's just, again, like we talked about in the last thing, it's a ripple effect of the previous regime screwed over all the actors and everyone else involved, so the current regime of Peter Safran and James Gunn have to just clean up all the messes. But this time, I think it's a little bit of Gunn's fault for jumping the gun, so to speak, and saying that Ben Affleck was in talks or would be involved in some capacity.
Yeah, which, maybe is still true from like a producer's standpoint. Maybe, who knows? But like at the same time, I don't blame Ben, especially like seeing some of his stories from even like the Ultimate Cut for Justice, the Snyder Cut stuff. When Snyder literally like called him, was like, "Hey, do you want to come film in my backyard?" And Ben was like, I think there's unions that you have to, like, you can't just dude, okay, we're doing this. All right, cool. Like, I don't blame him for being so scarred from everything from that era. Like you said, the absolute just ignorance of interviewers who were like, cool, we know you have a project coming up, we don't care, we want to talk about Batman, like, and like I get it to some extent, like
They just want the clicks.
yeah, they do. And like, Justice League at that time was a very big deal, but and because it was going through a lot. But at the same time, like, and maybe I'm just used to I'm used to the Sean from Hot Wings stuff where he's like aware of everything this actor or director has done, of like, hey, like, I know this is a thing you're currently, you have coming out very soon, but let's talk about this. And I think I don't necessarily blame Ben. Like, there's a lot of I've been following, David F. Sandberg because of the Shazam stuff. I don't know how much you've looked into it, but a lot of the stuff that David Ayer has been putting out there, like, if that's the kind of like reality of directing a superhero movie, yeah, I'd be out. I would want to be a part of that too. Ben has been on the acting side of it, and I wouldn't blame him if he doesn't want to see, if he's talk to James, talk to David Ayer, talk to Sandberg, and be like, yeah, like, that's not, this is the kind of stuff that comes with directing a superhero film. And I wouldn't blame him if he saw all that and was like, you know what, I'm still, I'm finally sober. I'm doing really good in my life. I'm back with, Jennifer Lopez.
We're back in
like,
the 2000s, people.
yeah, like, but like, I'm actually happy and healthy. I don't want to go back to that. And you know what? I don't blame him. I don't think this is necessarily Gunn's fault. I mean, at the time he said that, maybe it was true. Maybe it was something that, that they were in talks. And Ben finally was like, you know what? No, that's really just not something I want. And I've said it multiple times, but I'll say it again. I don't blame him. I don't blame him at all.
Well, also, we know that Ben Affleck is coming back for The Flash, for more or less his final appearance. And from Ben probably talking way too much, we know it's not going to be a rather large role, which I'm totally fine with. Maybe Ben Affleck feels that his role in The Flash is a perfect send-off to his incarnation of the character, and he doesn't want to tarnish that legacy, which totally applaud a guy for knowing when to step away, as opposed to undertaking it of just like, I've got a couple more years left in me, and then you really don't. Go out on top, so to speak. Like, people truly think that The Flash is a great movie, minus, the shenanigans of the main actor. But he has said in interviews that he thinks he finally nailed the character of Batman in this movie. So maybe this is a proper send-off for him. And I get that. He was a Snyder Universe guy, but also he's just a creative guy. He wants to do his own stuff. Like I said, Air looks spectacular. I cannot wait to see that in a couple weeks. I'm sure he's got other stuff. He's just going to stay away from the superhero genre for a while. It's just a guy that's been burnt out, and I totally get that. Heaven forbid a guy puts his own mental well-being and mental health above a big-budget superhero movie to fulfill our own needs as fans. I applaud you, Ben Affleck. Do what you want to do as opposed to what fans are expecting of you. You don't owe us anything.
Yeah. And I think that does definitely, there's some of that response definitely to almost all of this, the DC news of like, no, we as fans deserve fill in the blank. And that's not the truth. Like, we don't deserve anything from these people. They're just creatives. They are people doing what they love. So, like you said, all the respect more to you, Ben. Like, absolutely. You have literally made some of my favorite movies of all time. Between Good Will Hunting and Argo, and like you said, Air looks really stinking good. So yeah, absolutely. Do your thing, Ben.